Okay, so the question was, for our partners, what did the students, what skills did they come into this experience with that you appreciated them having? Or what can we, at Davidson, better provide our students that they would fill your needs for your organization better in the future? Yeah, please. You're gonna, or can we use,
Yeah.
Nathan, are we trying to use table talk mics or still come up here for answers, you think?
It'd be best if it
Okay, do you mind?
I'm pretty loud.
Not loud enough to go over the internet.
So I'm going to answer your question with a compliment, okay? But it's sincere. My answer to your question is to make sure that they're prepared to write a variety of different styles. And I would say that both of our scholars could demonstrate those skills, but I think that's not always an easy thing to do, especially if you're full-time students. When we would ask, please write up something, and it was kind of fast-paced, write up something about this, write up something about that. And so you have to be able to shift gears. It may not be a white paper. It might be a bulleted, these are the core messages. But I think if you all could continue to do that, that really helps us, because there's times when Bess mentioned, it's a report. It needs to be very formal and data and citations. Other times it's outreach to residents, and Maria did a lot of that. So just being able to know the different types of writing styles that we need and to be able to shift among those different requests was very, very helpful. So I would ask, please continue that. So that would be mine.
I'm not as loud, but I'll try. I'll go along with that too with another compliment. You got specifically towards.
Do you mind to introduce your organization?
My name is Calvin Cupini. I'm at Clean Air Carolina, and we work with a lot of real wonky kind of science-based technologies, some things that not everyone will be prepared for when they come in. And to be honest, it's not something that'll stay around for very long either. So if they're very prepared in ArcGIS or some other GIS tools, when they arrive, they could be sort of out of date within 2 years. So the ability to adapt to something you've never used before and have applicability across any platform is more valuable than having a skill set developed with any specific one. So work hard in database, give people some crash course in code, and let them look at the scary software as many times as possible, because that makes each one of them more simple. So I know Coraline was fantastic, by the way, because we threw some new stuff at her, and it was because of a little bit of her Python and JavaScript background. She could look at things, and it's not as scary. So yeah, get as many different types of contact as you can, because it changes very quickly.
Emily Schofield with JLL. I think it would be a benefit not only to the scholars but to each of your students in this framework of study to let them know that there are a multitude of viable career options with sustainability. I noticed there were only 2 for-profit opportunities that the students had this summer, and there are so many opportunities. There is an assumption, I think, with many students that if you pursue a career in sustainability, you don't make a very good living, and that is false. And so I think that's a really important thing to share, that this is a viable way of life. Also, looking at corporate ESG and CSR reports is really good to let them know what Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies are doing around sustainability.
All right, I'll ask a question. To any students who may be interested in applying to this program next year, scholars, is there a certain type of student who you think would do really well in this experience? Any kind of advertisement you might give for the program, or not, a student who might not be the best fit for this program?
So I really don't come from an environmental or science background, really. And being a political science major, sometimes, I know there's some environmental politics class, I haven't taken it. I know. But I think I was coming in, when we did the first, what did you call it? The benchmarking document to see how much we knew about sustainability. I felt that I probably was the one to know the least. And that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know about it or not. It's if you're interested in making a change. It doesn't have to be with air monitors, or it can be like really anything. So my advice is, if you're up for the challenge of having a big drive to make change, and that can be from econ, it can be from anthropology, from sociology, from ENV. Like, there's such a wide variety of majors here today, and I think that gets back to the point of Elizabeth, where sustainability is very interdisciplinary. So I would really encourage anyone that has a drive for change.
Clap to change the world, people. All right, I think one final question from the audience here.
Well, first I just want to thank Yancy for organizing.
Thanks. Thank you.
Inheriting this program and really continuing it. I think you've done a great job.
Thanks.
One sort of evolution or change that you made was moving from a 5-day to a 4-day work week, so that you'd have a day with them. And I'm just curious from both students and site supervisors, in particular site supervisors who've done this multiple years, whether they prefer to have 5 versus 4, for Yancey's benefit.
Sure. So the question, just so everyone heard, is that the program this year for the first time moved from students being on site 5 days a week to being on site 4 days a week, and having that opportunity for one day of kind of joint activities and programming. So any feedback, I will tell you, for my benefit, obviously, it kept me sane in that I was not trying to, chase students to come to evening events or Saturday events when I know they're tired. I mean, as working professionals, we all know you get tired on Saturday and you may not have the energy for that, the oomph, especially in a hot summer where you're, out on the street taking transit and stuff like that. So, yeah, so I found it hugely beneficial, but I appreciate the question and would love to hear, especially from the supervisors, how that went for you. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Meg Fensel from Sustain Charlotte, and it worked out really well for us. We've had a sustainability scholar in the past as well, and we often tend to be sort of wrapping things up internally on Fridays. So it was helpful, I think, for us to have some time where we were able to sort of wrap things up in the office then and know that the sustainability scholars were having a really valuable experience that is complementing the work that we're doing with them Monday through Thursday. So I think it helped to really give them a well-rounded experience and balance out the work that we're doing with them and the other type of programmatic work that we're doing in our office. So I loved it.
Hey everybody, Rob Focus with the City of Charlotte. I thought it was a brilliant idea, Yancy, assuming it was yours. I think Liam we've had a scholar since the beginning, and I think Liam might have missed a few tours that we hosted for interns across the city, but I'm a very firm believer that one of the biggest values interns can get is experiential, so not being behind a desk, but getting out and learning about the community and learning about what you're working on is extremely important. It sounds like the day was used extremely well. So I'd encourage you to continue it. And just while I have the podium, the other thing I'll say is to Davidson College is that I hope you continue this program. I think it's an amazing program. Every year that we've had a student, I've gotten amazing feedback from my colleagues on the quality of the students, both professionally and personally, and I just think it's a huge asset to the community and to the students as well.
Well, I'm glad Rob liked the Fridays because I definitely did too. I would say that what I found is that the two complemented each other very well. The Friday, what we did as part of the fellowship, the learning experiences, because like, for example, one of the Fridays we got to do walk to transit with Sustain Charlotte. And so having that whole experience, learning about, the issues with public transit in Charlotte, that informed just a week or two later, I was at a Smart Cities conference meeting, and John Lewis, who's the head of CATS, was there. And so I got to talk to him afterwards, and I told him about what I'd done with Walk to Transit, asked him about his thoughts, and he was very supportive of that whole program, and we had this whole discussion. But if I hadn't been able to go out and have this additional experience on the Friday, I wouldn't have been able to bring that to work with me just a few weeks later. So that's my thought on that.
Also, as part of our Fridays, we had this time where we would talk about the book that we were reading, but we also had a time to talk about current events. And what I found myself doing was that I was sharing the current events that my peers were giving us on Fridays, and then I was sharing them with our team, so much so that we added a current events time for our weekly meetings. And so that was a chance for me to share the knowledge that I was gaining from the rest of the scholars and share them with the team as well. So that was great.
Well, thanks. I guess we'll keep doing that next year, guys. Yeah, and I would also add for me, I mean, I think the students, again, where I said they really rose to the challenge that I set in front of them, because what I was hoping did actually happen in many cases where those Friday conversations, students were not siloed in a grueling 9-to-5 work schedule at their work sites where they didn't benefit from the experience other students were having. So we would be discussing a reading, and it would say, oh, but, in my case, X is happening. Well, is that X because of social issues in Charlotte? Is that X because of the type of organization you're in? Is that characteristic of the sector that you're working within? Those sorts of things. So some of that kind of cross-pollination across placements was really useful. I think our time has come to a close for the formal program. Again, I have a few minutes here for networking, and I hope that some of y'all will spend this time to follow up with the scholars. I know that, Chris, did you have any videos? Okay. Yeah, part of, Chris's interviews with transit riders. So she has those available at her spot. Others would love to answer questions about their projects, I'm sure. And thank you all again so much for your support of the program.